Prison experiments are not unheard of during the last century. Hello, I'm Dr. Sri Banerjee, core faculty for the College of Health Science and Public Policy at Walden University, and I wanted to go over in this segment about the Holmesburg prison experiment in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I wanted to show you an aerial view of Holmesburg prison center. Actually, what happened is in the late 19th century, the Moyman-Singh prison was overcrowded, and so for the overflow, prisoners were taken here, and even there, the prisons became overflowed here. So I wanted to go into the details of the experiment and what happened. Basically, a dermatologist and other people that were overseeing experiments had selected a prison because of the fact that there were people that you could control, having the control group and then the experimental group. So on the milder side, they were tested by any shampoo or products that may be harmful to the skin, and a lot of them left blisters, or worse yet, sloughing of the skin. Unfortunately, many of the large companies such as Johnson & Johnson were part of the experiments, were funding some of the experiments, and then there were other areas where psychotropic drugs were being introduced, some funded by the United States Army, experiments with LSD. So usually, for sources, I don't like to use Wikipedia. However, this was such a great resource in understanding and learning about this horrendous experiment. The place was known as the Horror Dome, or the Terror Dome, and so this was This was a place that was decommissioned in 1995. However, the building still stands, and from time to time, for work programs, this is used. However, some of the human experiments that took place were very much gross violation of human rights. Dr. Albert Kligman watched over this and supervised this. He had received his medical degree at the University of Pennsylvania and became a dermatologist to put his fungal studies to use. So what he would do, for instance, is inject Candida or yeast onto the feet and legs, and then have them wear boots for a week, and then this would help develop fungus on the feet. That's only one example. Others have to do with experimenting with skin. Of course, from that, he co-invented the acne medicine Retin A. A statement that Kligman had made famously: "All I saw before me were acres of skin." It was like a farmer seeing a fertile field for the first time. There was also use of some of the chemical warfare service, some of the chemical agents, and then some of them were given meager amounts of money in order to buy commodities, or also be able to place enough money towards bail. There was this rule: if a certain percentage of the bail was paid, then they could be released. So here's Leodis Jones. He wrote that I was in prison with a low bail. I couldn't afford the money to pay for bail. I knew that I wasn't guilty of what I was being held for. I was being coerced to plea bargain. So I thought, if I can get out of this, get me enough money to get a lawyer, I can beat this. This was my first thought, and this was they were required to pay 10% of bail. So this was a motivation to get involved in some of these experiments. And some of the interviews he did about visiting the prison regularly, and there was really no contract that was signed between the prison authorities and Dr. Kligman. Some other examples of what he did to the prisoners was inject large amounts of fungi. Also study prisoners where they were infected with skin viruses such as herpes and wart virus. And if we want to see what herpes simplex looks like, this is the picture. Studies exposing prisoners to long ultraviolet rays and different versions of yeast such as Candida. And then biochemical experiments with Agent Orange and dioxin. The Dow Chemical Company called for these experiments and compensated Kligman with $10,000. So, like I said, Johnson & Johnson, Dow, all of these huge major companies were funding, even the United States Army were funding experiments on prisoners. A lot of times you could just make $10, $300 to $300, and that would pay for a lot of commissary. And then, of course, some of the tests included eye drop tests, face creams, underarm deodorant, toothpaste, liquid diets, and others. There was some reports of excruciating pain and scary symptoms. Edward Anthony talked about a Johnson & Johnson study where a bubble bath created red bumps and blisters, and some of them, even after quitting the test early, his back continued to be on fire. In addition to the effects of drugs, the surviving experienced a range of long-term conditions. Of course, there was some chemical testing that took place as well. 320 inmates were recruited to test scopolamine, atropine, and ditran. And these are glycolate agents that affect nervous activity and function of smooth muscles. So these are many of the agents and drugs and even radioactive testing that was done on prisoners. One of Kligman's first radioactive experiment protocols was testing the turnover rate of the human skin in a study titled Studies of Human Epidermal Turnover Time Using S35 Cysteine and H3 Thymidine. So these were all in violation of a lot of the codes, like the Nuremberg Code that had been created, and that covers some of the grossest violation against human rights. I hope this has made some sense. Thank you for listening.